Hey people, welcome to the Run Testers. I have got the Adidas Terrex Agravic 3 laced up on my feet. I'm about to take them to the Thames to do some hard compact trails along the river for a first run look at these shoes. They're pretty keenly priced. Are they going to slot in as a really good value, accessible trail shoe? That is what I think they're being tipped as. We're about to go and do some first miles to find out what our initial reaction is. Let's go and have a run. Quick details then, when it comes to stack height, there's 32.5 mils on the heel, 24.5 mils on the forefoot for an 8 mil drop. They weigh in at 10.2 ounces or 289 grams in a UK men's size 8.5. On price, they're £120 in the UK and $130 in the US. Let's take a quick look at the shoe then, starting with the midsole. And in this shoe, you've got a softer Lightstrike midsole that comes with a bigger stack. That overall feels like it's tuned softer than you got in something like the Agravic Flow 2. That's there to give a cushioned but dynamic ride. There's a TPU stability plate as well for extra midfoot support, torsional flexibility and protection from the bumpier lumps on the trails. Up top, meanwhile, you've got abrasion-resistant mesh uppers that are pretty breathable. They feel robust and hard wearing, and there are some TPU overlays to add extra support and protection. You've got medium padded heel collars, wrapping tongues that help with the feeling of mid-foot security as well. When you flip them over, there's a no-nonsense continental rubber outsole with a mix of 4mm and 5mm lugs on the outer edges. That creates reliable grip on various conditions. Let's have a quick word on fit then. I think, as you can see, I have got more than a thumb's width of room at the end of the toe box. These are really nice and spacious towards the end. There's plenty of room across the top as well. There's a decent amount of wiggle room. And for Adidas shoes, which can come up tight, these feel nice and spacious in this toe box area. There's a good volume there. And as you move back up the shoe, I really like this kind of lacing structure. It holds really nice and tight and locked in here without pinching on the toe knuckles here, on the big and the little toe knuckle. So there's no sort of pressure across the top of the toes here or at the back of them, which can happen sometimes with trail shoes. They just feel sort of nice and flexible. And then as you move into the lacing, they hold really nicely across the top of the midfoot with no messing. So as you move back into the heel collars, you've got medium padded heel collars here, which just make for nice comfort without adding too much weight. There's a bit of flex as well in the sort of heel collar kick here, which means that there's no unnecessary or nasty kind of pressure on the base of the Achilles, which I've had with some trail shoes recently. Just enough hold in the heel from the counters there. And overall, I think these have a really good disappearing fit. I ran in my regular running shoe size, or my regular Adidas shoe size, which is a UK 8.5, and I would recommend you buy these in your regular shoe size. So I'm about 7 miles into an 8-mile first run in the Adidas Terrex Agravic 3. I say Agravic, that's the Eastern European pronunciation in me. Basically, so far, this is a shoe that's impressed me. I've run mainly on hard packed, compact trails here, off roads by the River Thames. It's been dry as bone. The ground is sort of, mud is all compact, really hard. It's a bunch of little stones. I've done some into the forest floor, over some tree roots and whatnot, so a little bit to test the stability. But mainly here I'm having a look at the cushioning and the ride of these shoes. First thing to say, comfort on the foot's really good. I'm always a bit worried about Adidas shoes because sometimes they come up a bit narrow. When I took them out of the box, I looked at them, I thought they might, but actually good lockdown across the midfoot. There's good room into the toe box, and overall this is a really kind of comfy, easy shoe that disappears from the get-go. I felt very comfortable in the first miles, good heel hold, and yeah, just nice and spacious. It's kind of, for that reason, it's one of those shoes that I think I'll easily be able to clip along and do quite a lot of miles without any unnecessary kind of friction and rubbing bits. So I just think it's useful just to give you a little bit of an update as I feel them as I'm running right now. And talking about the ride and that midsole, what you get here is a midsole that is fairly firm. There's a little bit of cushioning in it. There's enough to take the edge off, but I think this is a shoe that's going to perform better on softer trails rather than the hard packed. It is just a touch firm for this. I mean, I wouldn't put it too far off the softness of a Speedgoat, or it's not as soft as like a Merrell Moreflight or even the Merrell Agility Peak 5. Those have a little bit more cushioning. They take away a little bit more of the impact, but it's a happy ride. Well balanced. They feel touch heavy on the foot. Maybe overall there's a lot of grip and stickiness from those 4mm lugs, particularly on some road sections. I think when it comes to road to trail sections, that makes them a little bit tacky, although they do cope okay on the roads. But what I'm getting here is a ride that it just soaks up enough of the impact from the ground, but keeps you feeling nicely connected. There's overall pretty good balance to them. I do feel there's a little bit of energy coming back as well. And to me, it definitely feels there's a little bit more softness into the heel. So if you're a bit of a heel striker, there is a bit more protection there. Now the forefoot platform does feel fairly wide. That's obviously good from a stability point of view. I've had no trouble with that. I feel really nicely stable in the shoes. I haven't done too much on really kind of crazy technical uneven terrain. As you can see, it's all pretty flat and pretty runnable here. So it'd be interesting to see in the main review what these are like when you're starting to get onto something a bit more steep, a little bit more lumpy and bumpy, all that kind of thing. But for this kind of terrain, they've actually been good for these first miles. So I recently tested the Agravic Flow 2, slightly different shoes. Those ones come up much further than this. This seems to fix some of that problem. If you want something that's a little bit more soft, a little bit more cushioned, I think these are shoes that are going to work really nicely. To me, I just feel like the word that's jumping into my head is workhorse. They're not the highest energy trail shoes. They've got good connection, good ground contact, take the edge off the trails without leaving you disconnected. You're still in touch with the ground. There's a good ground feel, butt protection. And overall, as I run here, I just have this thought in my head, this is going to be quite an accessible trail shoe. So something that I think will probably suit a lot of people who are maybe first-time trailers, or someone who's just looking for a trail shoe that, you know, treads a fairly standard path, very reliable, no nonsense, and nothing crazy. It's not particularly fast, but it's a good shoe for just buzzing along like I am now. I'm moving at probably my slow and easy pace. Anyway, I'll do a little bit more of a wrap back in the office or the car. So I'm just back from that 8-mile first run in the Adidas Terrex Agravic 3. A few things come to mind from that first few miles in the shoe on quite hard compacted trails. One is that you've got a really nice, well-balanced cushioning underneath. It's got good ground contact, but just enough softness to take the edge off the trails. It's probably going to be better suited to softer trails rather than the harder stuff. I think that does maybe inhibit its kind of road to trail potential somewhat, but that's just my first run. Got a bit heavy legs, so that may be different when I'm feeling more fresh and I'm running across tarmac. It certainly wasn't terribly sort of uncomfortable or too rigid and firm and blocky on the tarmac stretches or the hard compacted stuff. Other shoes, I think Speedgoat, maybe looking at the Agility Peak, the Merrell Agility Peak 5 or the Merrell Morefly, shoes like that are going to offer a little bit more softness. It is softer than the Agravic Flow that I reviewed on the channel recently. You'll be able to find a video for that. But the other thing I'm really impressed by with this is just the overall comfort on the foot. It's really nicely disappearing for a trail shoe. I get really nice hold across the midfoot. Heels felt nicely held, but there's good room in the toe box. Sometimes with Adidas shoes, they just come up a little bit narrow. And whilst this isn't the most spacious shoe I've ever run in, there's definitely enough wiggle room that would make me think about this shoe for going for longer hours on the trails. I haven't tested it on any steep, so I haven't been able to test that kind of toes against the end, but it does feel like there's good length and there's good wiggle room here. So I think that's a really big tick from Adidas. And I think with the Terrex shoes that they've pulled out recently, I think they're making some really, really good trail shoes. And my instinct to this, I really enjoyed that first run in them. I think it's a really nicely well-balanced shoe. It's got workhorse written all over it. It's got easy clip along. It's got, I think, kind of that ultra potential for, yeah, maybe up to like 100k potentially, if you like, well, particularly if you're going to be running on sort of softer trails. And I think for the price tag, £130, I believe in the UK, that's going to be, yeah, I think that's going to put this into being quite a competitive shoe, particularly if you're thinking of a first-time trail shoe for yourself, an accessible trail shoe, one that's going to have good durability and just be a good, reliable workhorse in your kind of shoe setup. That's my first impressions of this after the first run. But obviously I will do more miles and I will take it onto some more testing terrain to test it when you're going steeper downhills, climbing, all of that kind of stuff, onto some where it's a bit more lumpy and bumpy. So there you have it. That has been my first run look at the new Adidas Terrex Agravic 3. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope it's been useful. If you have any questions about this shoe that you want us to answer in the review, stick them in the comments below and I will endeavour to test those things out. Let me know what you want to know, shoes that you might like it compared to, all of that kind of stuff. If you want to hear when that review lands, don't forget to hit subscribe and ring that bell. Hit like if you enjoyed the video, share it with people if you can. That really helps us keep creating more videos on the channel. If you're interested in road to trail shoes, I'm going to pop a couple of videos up on the channel now that you should probably go and watch. Otherwise, thank you very much for dropping by and watching. And yeah, we hope to see you again soon on the Run Testers. In the meantime, happy running, everyone.